Hello, and thank you for joining us. CBS News has obtained a Customs and Border Protection memo sent to Congress that has more details of the fatal shooting of Alex Pretti in Minneapolis. The notice reveals 2 agents fired their weapons during the incident. There's also no mention in the memo that the 37-year-old ever brandished his own weapon. Some Border Patrol agents have started leaving Minneapolis following backlash from Saturday's shooting and ongoing pleas from state and local officials. Now the Trump administration is also facing potential legal trouble. A Minnesota judge has given the head of ICE until the end of the week to appear in person to explain why he should not be held in contempt for violating court orders. The judge is accusing the Trump administration of failing to comply with dozens of orders regarding legal challenges to Operation Metro Surge. ICE is accusing the judge of being a political activist. The Senate Homeland Security Committee has also confirmed the heads of ICE, CBP, and USCIS, or U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service, have agreed to testify before Congress next month on February 12th. President Trump has been attempting to backtrack some of the rhetoric shared by his own administration officials regarding Saturday's deadly shooting. When asked today if he agreed with the assessment by his Homeland Security advisor, Stephen Miller, who referred to Pretti as a would-be assassin, President Trump said no. CBS News correspondent Ian Lee joins me now from Minneapolis. What do we know, Ian, about Tom Homan's role in Minnesota and how his meetings with officials went today?
Hi, Lindsay. There seems to be a bit of a tone shift here in Minnesota when it comes to the ongoing operation and the arrival of Tom Homan. He met with the governor of Minnesota. He also met with Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, as well as the chief of police. When it comes to the governor reiterated his priorities, and those being an impartial investigation into the Minneapolis shootings involving federal agents, a swift, significant reduction in the number of federal forces in Minnesota, and an end to the campaign of retribution against Minnesota. Now, the governor also spoke with the president yesterday, and he said the president said, to be on the same wavelength. So it does seem like federal officials as well as local are coming to some sort of understanding. We also had the mayor meeting with Homan, and he released a statement saying that Operation Metro Surge, he asked for that to end as quickly as possible, that public safety works best when it's built on community trust. And so both sides are talking about what they would like to see, what they want to happen. And I can tell you, last night we saw clashes between protesters and police. Today's been pretty calm.
Do we have any idea now with Homan on the ground what the future of the operation could look like?
Yeah, well, we are seeing a scaling back, at least of some federal agents. We know, according to 2 officials at DHS telling CBS News, that some of the roughly 800 Border Patrol agents, some of them will be withdrawing. We also know Gregory Bovino is going to be or is leaving. But also we heard that from the mayor when he was talking to the president, saying the situation needs to change. And it seems like both are in agreement that something like that is going to happen. But mind you, the federal government has said the operation here will continue until they feel that it is done. And so we could be seeing a withdrawing down of agents and a prolonged operation. We really don't have a timeline for when it will end.
Ian Lee, thank you. For more on the investigation into Alex Pretti's death, CBS News Homeland Security correspondent Nicole Sganga joins me. What new information have we learned?
Yeah, so from this CBP memo to Congress, we have learned 2 very important things. The first, this memo does not mention that Alex Pretti, the victim here, reached for his firearm at any point, and it does not mention his firearm. He had a Sig Sauer P320 custom weapon in his holster. It does not mention that firearm discharged at all. There was some mention by both the President of the United States and some thought circulating online that perhaps it could have accidentally discharged. According to this report, that did not happen. The only weapons to discharge were by 2 personnel, a CBP officer and a U.S. Border Patrol agent, who opened fire during this physical struggle. I do want to read part of the memo here. It says CBP personnel attempted to take Pretti into custody. Pretti resisted CBP personnel's efforts and a struggle ensued. During that struggle, a BPA or a Border Patrol agent yelled, "He's got a gun," multiple times. Approximately 5 seconds later, that Border Patrol agent discharged his CBP-issued Glock 19, and a CBP officer also discharged his CBP-issued Glock 47 at Pretti. After the shooting, a Border Patrol agent advised he had possession of Pretti's firearm. The Border Patrol agent subsequently cleared and secured Pretti's firearm in his vehicle. These are revelatory statements. Prior to this report being issued, we did not even know how many CBP personnel fired their weapons. We now know 2. The memo goes on to say that Pretti was placed in an ambulance around 9:14 a.m. He was transported to Hennepin County Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead later, approximately 15 minutes later, around 9:32. Lindsay.
There is another shooting involving federal agents in Arizona today. What can you tell us?
Yeah, a law enforcement source tells CBS News that U.S. Border Patrol agents attempted to stop an individual in his pickup truck in Arivica, Arizona, in Pima County. That's right around Tucson. It's right on the U.S.-Mexico border there. Once that vehicle was stopped, cut short, the driver fled from officials. The driver, who was carrying at least one firearm, opened fire both on CBP air and marine operations, a helicopter that was overhead, and Border Patrol agents who were on the ground. At that point, Border Patrol agents did return fire, striking the man. It's unclear how many shots were fired there. According to this official, that driver was rendered medical aid at the scene, was transported to a local hospital. His current condition is not immediately known, but this law enforcement source tells CBS News that the individual here was a U.S. citizen with a history of illegal undocumented migrant smuggling and was the target of this operation. So it appears to be a U.S. Border Patrol targeted operation along the border where that individual did resist arrest, and then a firefight ensued. Lindsay.
Nicole Sganga, thank you. Earlier, while visiting a store in Iowa, a journalist asked President Trump about the deadly shooting of Alex Pretti by federal agents.
Do you agree with the assessment from some of your own officials that Alex Pretti is a domestic terrorist or an assassin?
Well, I haven't heard that, but certainly he shouldn't have been carrying a gun. I don't like that he had a gun. I don't like that he had 2 fully loaded magazines. That's a lot of bad stuff. And despite that, I say that's a very unfortunate.
What do you think?
All right, let's go to CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cortez now. Nancy, the president is in Iowa to talk about the economy, but Minneapolis obviously still a big focus for him. What more did he say about the shooting?
Lindsay, he told reporters repeatedly that it was an unfortunate situation and that he wanted a very thorough investigation into the shooting of Alex Pretti. He said that he wanted to be kept abreast. He wanted to be very involved in the investigation. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. We still, several days later, have not been informed of the names of the officers who shot multiple times at Alex Pretti. And interestingly, just a few minutes ago, Lindsay, one of the people at the center of this controversy, the president's deputy chief of staff, Stephen Miller, put out a statement of his own. You will recall that it was Miller who, within hours of this shooting on Saturday, labeled Pretti an assassin, called him a domestic terrorist. And since then, reporting has indicated that the DHS statement that went out claiming falsely, it now turns out that Pretti had approached officers with a gun, that Miller was very involved with the wording of that statement. Miller himself just putting out a new statement defending himself, saying that he was working off of the information that CBP officers on the scene were relaying back to Washington. And interestingly, he said that the Border Patrol team on the ground there in Minneapolis may not have been following proper protocol. So this is a developing situation as Miller clearly is trying to contend with even some Republicans in Congress now saying that he should go.
Also, the president met with Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem at the White House last night. Let's talk about the scrutiny that she is facing. And are you finding through your reporting that this is now becoming quite the blame game?
Yeah, it certainly appears that way. She told Axios via a surrogate today that she was only following the instructions that she had received from the White House and from Stephen Miller. But if anything, the drumbeat on Capitol Hill among Democrats and now, as I mentioned, a few Republicans is that perhaps she should to seek to step down as well. Tom Tillis, Republican senator of North Carolina, who's going to be retiring at the end of this term, called her and Miller and their leadership incompetent. And you even have longtime conservative allies like Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, saying that that perhaps there needs to be a wholesale examination of the way that ICE and CBP is carrying out its duties in places like Minneapolis, and that is clearly putting more pressure on the White House.
Nancy Cortez, thank you.